there, this is Susan Norrell, and I'm going to be talking about how to place rational numbers on a number line. So one of the things I want you to remember when we're talking about placing numbers on a number line is I want you to think about the numbers between 0 and 1 whole. Let's start with just 0 and 1 whole. So we can think about numbers between 0 and 1 whole pretty easily. We know that halfway between 0 and 1 would be 1/2. If we wanted to break up 0 and 1/2, we can break that up into what we know as quarters, right? There's 4 quarters in a dollar, so this one would be 1/4. This one would be 2/4, which is also 1/2. This one would be 3/4. And of course, 1 whole would be 4/4. Also in the 1 whole, because this one is 0, 1/2, this one would be 2/2. It would be 2/2. So you'll notice that 1 whole is always going to have the numerator and the denominator the same value. That's going to help us immensely when we are trying to go above and beyond 1 whole. It's also going to help us when we start dipping into the negative values. So 1 whole, we get that when we say here that 4 will go into 4 1 whole time. Remember, a fraction bar is just a division sign. This is 4 divided by 4. So 4 will go into 4 1 whole time. 2 will go into 2 1 whole time. If we wanted to break this up into fifths, let's say we have, let's place 0 here in the middle now. Let's put this as our 1 whole. So let's break it into fifths. We need 5 equal sections. So I'm going to break it up into fifths. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. So you can see here, I've got 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, 4 sections, 5 sections. So I've got it into 5 equal sections. So as I break this up now, I've got 0/5, because I've got it broken up into 5 equal sections. This one would be 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. Excuse my writing, I'm trying to draw with a mouse. And of course, 1 whole would be 5/5, because 5 goes into 5 1 whole time. All right, now, if I want to move that beyond 1 whole and go 2 whole times, we need to break this up into 5 equal sections as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal sections. So if 1 whole is 5/5, then the next section would be 6/5. Now we're getting into improper fractions. 7/5. 8/5. 9/5. And remember, this is 2 wholes, which would be 10 fifths. Because 5 will go into 10 2 whole times. So we have our 0, 1, 2. We have our whole numbers. We have our positive fractions. We have our positive improper fractions. How could we make these into mixed numbers? Well, pretty easily. 5, let's change my color here. 5 will go into 6 1 whole time. But I have 1, think about 5 goes into 6 1 whole time. 1 times 5 is 5. And if I subtract, 6 minus 5 is 1. I have a 1 as a remainder. So that would be 1 whole. My remainder is the numerator. And my denominator, the fifths, stays the same. I'm still talking about fifths. So as an as a mixed number, we're now talking 1 and 1/5. So 6 fifths becomes 1 and 1/5. Well, that makes sense here because I did 1/5 here. 0, 1/5. So if I'm at 1 whole, that would be 1 and 1/5. This next one would be 1 and 2/5. 1 and 3/5. 1 and 4/5. And then, of course, 1 and 5/5 would just be 2 wholes. But see, all of this is mirrored in the negatives as well. Let me change my color again. Here is negative 1 whole. Negative 2 wholes. Well, I have negative 1/5, negative 2/5, negative 3/5, negative 4/5. Negative 5/5 would be that negative 1 whole. Negative 1 and 1/5, negative 1 and 2/5, negative 1 and 3/5, negative 1 and 4/5, negative 2 wholes. So all of these values here on the right side are going to be mirrored over here on the left side. Negative 1/5, negative 2/5. Mirrored is in, they go backwards. Negative 3/5. Negative 4/5. Negative 5/5, so this one would be negative 6/5. Or negative 1 and 1/5. Negative 7/5. Or negative 1 and 2/5. Negative 8/5. Or negative 1 and 3/5. Negative 9/5. Or negative 1 and 4/5. So you can kind of see how everything is mirrored on the left side of 0 just as it is on the right side of 0. It's just these are negative and these are positive. All right, so having that said, let's try some that you might see in ALEKS. So here we're going to plot negative 2.5, positive 1 3/4. So let's start with 0. Let's start with 0. let's put 1. Let's put -1 and -2. Now, what I notice here is that -2.5 versus +1 3/4. Now, what Alex does is it's breaking it up into fourths. It's breaking it up into whatever the largest denominator is. So we need to break our number line up into fourths. So we'll go ahead and we'll put a positive to it over here. But we need to break our number line up into fourths. So we'll have breaking it up into 4 equal sections. 1, 2, 3, 4 equal section. And I do that by cutting it in half and then cutting my halves into halves. Cutting it into half and then cutting my halves into halves. Okay. Now, I'm going to have +1 3/4. So let's start here at 1. Here's 1 1/4. 1 2/4. 1 3/4. So here is where I would plot my points. My -2.5, let's think about what 2.5 is. If I'm going to cut, here, let's mark this in gray pencil here. If I'm going to cut 0 and 1 in half, that would be right here. So this one would be -1/2. So notice there's 1 dash between the -1 and the -1/2. So here is -2. This one would be that dash that's in between the -2 and the -2 and 1/2. So here is where you would put your points. Okay, now it looks like kind of picked one that was the exact same there, so we won't do that one again. But here, if we were to try, let's choose a blue color this time, 1 1/4, well, we already have 1 1/4 labeled here. So we can just go ahead and put that one on this same line, 1 1/4. And that's this one right here. All right, let's try breaking it up into sixths and thirds. So I noticed that I have -2 and 5/6. So I'm going to go on to -3 over here. Make sure I leave myself enough room, unlike I did on the first example, which means I'm going to take this one to +3. And I'm going to put 0 right smack in the middle. So 1, 2, -1, -2. See how I kind of try to make those equal? Okay, so notice that my largest denominator is 6. So Alex is going to break these up into 6 equal sections. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into 3 equal sections, because you saw how I did 3 equal sections. It wasn't too bad breaking it up into 3 equal sections. So I'm going to break it up into 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to break each third up in half. And there's my 6 equal sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 equal sections. So between 0 and 1, I have 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 6. 6, 6 would be my 1 whole. Okay, now notice the 6th is going to be in my -2 value, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I want to go on to 1 2/3, so that's going to be over here. So I'm going to break this up into thirds, and then I'm going to break each thirds into 6. Now, this is what Alex is going to look like. It's actually going to be broken up into 6. So 1 1/6, 2 6, 3 6 is going to be 1/2, because remember 3 is half of 6. 4 6, 5 6, 6 6 is 1 whole. Okay, so now we'll have 1 and 1/6. Well, think about what we'll simplify here. 2 will go into 2 and 6. 2 will go into 2 1 time. 2 will go into 6 3 times. So 2 6 is actually 1/3. 2 will go into 4 2 times. 2 will go into 6 3 times. So 4 6 is actually 2/3. So this is actually 1 and 1/6, but this one is actually 1 and 1/3. This is 1 and 1/2. 1 and 2/3. Because remember, 4 6 simplifies to 2/3. And then 1 and 5 6. If I simplify each one of them. And then 2 wholes. Because remember, 2 6 simplifies to 1/3, 3 6 simplifies to 1/2, 4 6 simplifies to 2/3. 1 6 and 5 6 don't simplify to anything. So if I'm looking for 1 and 2/3, 1 and 2/3, there's where I put my mark. Okay, let's try this -2 and 5 6. Well, here's -2. 5/6 is going to be in between here. So I'm going to cut it into thirds. Right? So this would be -2 and 1/3. But I'm actually going to cut these into 6. So -2 and 1/6. Here, let me erase that. I wrote that really big. So -2 and 1/6. -2 and 2/6. -2 and 3/6. -2 and 4/6. See how these are going backwards? Here we go. -2 and 5/6 is what we're looking for. It makes sense that that would be right next to -3. Okay, -2 and 1/6 we could put over here on this one. Let's make that one purple. -2 and 1/6 would be right here, right next to -2. So that would be here. But +11/6. Let's think about this one for a minute. Let's change this color to navy blue. 11/6. Let's think over here. We have 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, 6/6, 7/6, 8/6, 9/6. See, we're doing improper fractions. 10/6, 11/6 would be right here. That would be 1 and 5/6. 12/6 would be 2 wholes, because 6 goes into 12 2 whole times. So 11/6 would be 1 and 5/6. So we've done +11/6. Let's see, let's change it to pinkish purple. And let's do this 4/3. 4/3. Let's come over here. 4/3. Let's see, we have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 would be 1 whole. 4/3 would be this 1 and 1/3. Because think about it. 4/3. That's 4 divided by 3. 4 divided by 3. 3 will go into 4 1 whole time. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract that with a remainder of 1. That's 1 and 1/3. 1 and 1/3. That's 1 and 1/3. So that gives you right there. So that's going to be that 4/3. take a moment on this slide and see if you can find -1 and 1/6. See if you can find -1 and 1/6 on this number line here. Pause the video and see if you can find -1 and 1/6. Okay, I'm going to, it's going to be between -1 and -2. So I'm going to break this up into thirds. And then since I'm doing 6, I'm going to cut each one of those in half. So here is -1 and 1/6. All right. Let's think about -2 and 3/4 and +3/2. Okay, let's go all the way to -3 and we'll come up here to +3, which means we'll put 0 in the middle. Cut this into thirds. So we've got +1, +2. Cut this into thirds. And so we'll have -1 and -2. Now, once again, notice that your largest denominator here is 4. So I want you to pause this video and see if you can find -2 and 3/4. -2 and 3/4. Okay, -2 and 3/4 is going to be between -2 and -3. So I'm going to cut -2 and -3 in half, and then each one of those in half. So that'll give me -2 and 1/4, because see, I've cut it into fourths. -2 and 2/4, -2 and 3/4. And there's where my point would go. Now, pause the video and see if you can find where +3/2 would go. +3/2. Think about 1/2. 1/2 would go here. 2/2 would be 1 whole. So 3/2 would go here. All right, I think we can continue with these fourths if we were to try -1 and 1/4. Let's try -1 and 1/4. Where would you put -1 and 1/4 on this number line? Okay, if you haven't paused the video, go ahead and try. If we cut it in half, and then half again, here's -1 and 1/4. How about, try a different color. Let's try navy blue. How about +7/4? Where would you find +7/4? Pause the video and see if you can find +7/4. If we cut these in half, we can find fourths. Here we would have +1/4, +2/4, +3/4, +4/4. 4 goes into 4 one whole time, +5/4, +6/4, +7/4. All right, I think if we were to do one more number line, we could fit on there these last couple. Notice we're in 6 3/3. 6 3/3. So I'm going to come up here to +3. But I'm only going to come down to -1. No, I'm going to come down to -2. Going to come down to -2. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause the video, and I would like you to try to put all 4 of these last points on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 of these last points on this number line for me here. So pause the video and then press play. Alright, so between -2 and +3, I have 5 sections. So I'm going to cut this into 5, or I'm going to try to cut it into 5 equal sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I got that close enough to equal sections. And I'm going to label these. All right, now I notice my largest denominator is 6. So -1/6 is going to be between 0 and -1. So I'm going to cut this into 6 by first cutting it into thirds and then cutting those thirds into halves. And that gives me 6 equal sections. So this first one would be -1/6. And there's my first point. -1/6. Now my second one is going to be in thirds, but Alex is going to have the number line broken into sixths. So I'm going to have to think in sixths. Now here's one way you could do that. Take 8 over 3 and think about, what would I have to multiply 3 by in order to get 6? Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So if I were to multiply 8 times 2, that would give me 16. So that's going to be 16 sixths. Okay, well I know that 12 sixths is 2 wholes, right? Because 6 will go into 12 2 whole times. And 18 sixths is 3 wholes, because 6 will go into 18 3 whole times. So I know that I'm between 2 and 3 wholes. So I'm going to break it into 6 equal sections by first breaking it into thirds and then cutting those in half. So if this is 12, then this is 13 sixths, 14 sixths, 15 sixths, 16 sixths, and 17 sixths, which would mean my point is there. And what that point represents in the problem is 8 thirds. Well, think about that. This is 3 thirds. This is 6 thirds. Because 3 goes into 6 2 whole times. So 6 thirds, 7 thirds, 8 thirds. That makes sense? Step on it. That's my dog. All right, let's try this next one. -1 and 1/6. Well, 1/6, -1/6 was just to the left of 0. So I bet you -1 and 1/6 is just going to be to the left of -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be -1 and 1/6. And lastly, 2 thirds will be between 0 and 1. Well, we know 2 thirds would be here. But how many sixths would that be? One sixth, 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4 sixths, 5 sixths. It would be 4 sixths because 6 sixths would be 1 whole. 4 sixths would be 2 thirds. And if you think about it, if I have 2 thirds and I want a denominator of 6, what do I have to multiply 3 by to get 6? I got to multiply it by 2. So if I multiply the top by 2, 2 times 2 is 4. So all I got to do is find 4 sixths on that number line. Alright guys, I hope this video has been helpful. Please let me know if you have some other questions. I will also put some links into the course to help you with some other websites. Have a great evening.